So Boston Dynamics recently announced their new version of Atlas, and it is actually quite surprising how good this robot is. So we're going to take a look at this robot and dive into exactly why this is literally the next generation in humanoid robotics. So that was the rather impressive demo that has been going viral recently, and I think it's pretty surprising on how insane that robot is. Now there's a lot of stuff that I do need to tell you because it isn't just this demo, there's actually a decent amount of information that they've released with this robot, and I think we are about to see how crazy humanoid robots are about to get. So, if you don't know, this robot is I guess you could say the next generation in terms of what's to come after they retired the initial version, which is of course the Atlas. Now, I think it is a little bit confusing that they just didn't call this Atlas V2 or Atlas Pro or something different, because their previous robot a couple of days ago, they announced that they were going to be retiring this version. You remember this version of Atlas? It broke the internet when it got released. Its videos got hundreds of millions of views. The entire internet kind of went crazy over it. And now we're hearing that Boston Dynamics is going to be moving on into the humanoid robot space. Now, with this demo that we saw, we've got to be honest, this is very, very impressive for a variety of different reasons. The fluidity of the robot, the uncanniness of the movement, I mean, just how the robot was able to stand up right there is definitely something that you probably might see out of a Terminator movie. And then being able to just swivel on the joints right there shows us that this is a robot that can move very, very fluidly. Now, they've also included some pieces of information with this robot, and there are a few key features that I do want to show you that you might have actually missed. So in the blog post, they said that this is the latest iteration of the Atlas robot that builds on a long history of innovation and research and design, pushing the limits of whole-body mobility and manual manipulation, from Petman testing protective clothing to the recently retired Atlas performing parkour. We have spent over a decade moving the state-of-the-art forward with humanoid robotics. Now, of course, I've already shown you the video in which they talk about the evolution of Atlas and how they managed to get where they are today. But one thing I want you all to remember is that this version of Atlas, the first video where it was doing the movements, wasn't even recent. These videos and demos have actually been around for quite some time. And we've even seen the recent parkour video. It's essentially 2 years old. So this robot is likely probably a few years in the making and isn't just something that they've decided to come out with. They've certainly been working on this for a very, very long time. Now, something that we always get in the robotics community is that why on earth do they make robots that are in the humanoid form factor? So you can see right here that they say, traditionally, we are focused on legged robots because we wanted to build robots that could balance and move dynamically, robots that could navigate unstructured, unknown, or antagonistic terrain with ease. And the main factor here, the main reason that most people don't seem to think about, because most people decide to question why these robots are humanoid, because some people just think it's just because they look cool. But that's not the reason. The reason is that this world is designed for humans. So if you're going to design a robot, you need to be able to design a robot that can be plug and play with our already established environments. I mean, yes, you could build robot dogs, which is essentially what they've used to be focusing on. But if you build a humanoid robot and it works very effectively, you don't have to redesign the world around the robot. You just have to design the robot around the existing world. I mean, for example, robots with wheels don't really work well because of stairs, and robots that can't walk upstairs don't work well in certain environments. And you can see here that they said, the humanoid form factor is useful design for robots working in a world designed for people. Now, in addition, in the blog post, they state some more interesting things. They state that this is going to exceed human capabilities, which is a little unsettling for those of you who may have watched too many Terminator movies. So here it says, however, that form factor doesn't limit our vision of how a bipedal robot can move, what tools it needs to succeed, and how it can help people accomplish more. We designed the electric version of Atlas to be stronger, more dexterous, and more agile. Atlas may resemble a human form factor, but we are equipping the robot to move in the most efficient way possible to complete a task rather than being constrained by a human range of motion. And that's why I have the picture of the robot here in the bottom left-hand corner, because we all saw exactly how that robot stood up. It was probably the most uncanny thing I've ever seen. A robot being able to swivel on its hips and just standing up like something out of a horror movie. Definitely interesting. And I'm wondering how it's going to complete certain tasks when it's able to move and swivel its hips in a way that humans simply can't. And then it says here, Atlas will move in ways that exceed human capabilities, combining decades of practical experience with first principles thinking. We are confident in our ability to deliver a robot uniquely capable of tackling dull, dirty, and dangerous tasks in real applications. And I think this is rather interesting because, like I said, I can already see some applications for this kind of robot, because what we have here is a robot that is not limited to the human ranges of motion. And I think this is something that we are going to probably see in the new robots being developed. And as far as I know, this is the only robot that is able to move so fluidly and so freely. You can see the head can do a full 360, the body can do a full 362, the legs as well. It is absolutely incredible. The types of movement and the ranges of movement that this robot is going to be able to do, it is going to truly be an incredibly agile robot. Now, something that you may have missed, and there's a few more facts that I do want to show you, is that one of the things I noticed was that this robot actually looks pretty far, and I think it's so fascinating to how quickly this robot is. And I think this robot might actually set the world record for the world's fastest moving robot, because while it is just doing some standard walking there, that does seem to be pretty quick. And if it's anything like its predecessor, the other Atlas, it will certainly be able to run and be very quick. I mean, now there's also something that most people also didn't know, and that was the grippers. So when the robot is standing up, you can see its arms for a fraction of a second, and it seems that what we're looking at here is the newly designed grippers that were placed on the recently demoed Atlas. So if you may have not noticed, recently there was an update to Boston Dynamics' Atlas platform before it was retired, and they actually showcased an interesting style of grippers. So here we could see Atlas actually performing a kind of movement where it's being able to transport some kind of car strut into some shelf area, and it seems that it has some upgraded grippers to be able to perform these tasks. I mean, it doesn't look like a human hand whatsoever. What it does look like is 3 different fingers or prongs, whatever you want to call them, and I think this might be the most effective mode of gripping objects for these humanoid robots, because I can guarantee you guys they've already tested this a bunch of different times, and I've seen humanoid robots, and not just humanoid robots, many other styles of robots, be able to move and grab objects with remarkable ease, even with just 2-pronged grippers. So it seems that this kind of grip is what is going to be present in this style of Atlas. And this is exactly how the robot is likely to be gripping. Now, something I also think is going to be possible is that they're going to be able to, remove these grippers from the robot simply because it is likely going to be interchangeable. So I doubt that this robot is going to just have one set of grippers fastened to the robot. I think they're going to be completely interchangeable at the side. And that is something that I recently saw in another robot demo where, at the start, the robot literally just slips on its hand, and I think that would be really useful because if you want to use the robot in multiple different use cases, you can just literally slip on and off someone's hand in order to be able to apply it to different tasks. So I think that is going to be pretty fascinating. Now, what does this actually hold for the future? Because while yes, this robot is actually pretty insane, but what is coming next? So previously there was some kind of talk that was released where Boston Dynamics executives actually spoke about what this robot is going to be like in the future. Now bear in mind this was a while ago, so the information might be a little bit out of date, but it still showcases the vision and where things could be heading.
And of course at some point, maybe, the robot will be able to do things that a general purpose humanoid robot is expected to do. And it's interesting, what's in this picture is probably not 50 years away, right? I don't think it's around the corner, as some people might want to make you believe, but, this is probably in the 10-year time frame. One of the biggest things that we are working feverishly to figure out is actually not the ability of the robot in terms of moving and obstacle avoidance and autonomy. Most of that we have figured out. One of the biggest things for a humanoid robot like that is, of course, safety. Because this is a strong robot, and Spot can work side-by-side workers. I think most of us feel pretty comfortable with him being in this room here. And the bigger the robots get, the more important safety will become.
So we can clearly see that there is a clear future of these humanoid robots being able to do a lot of things. And like I said before, if it's going to be anything like what we've seen here, just imagining a humanoid robot form factor being able to run across different parkour environments, being able to simply turn its hips in a way that we've never seen before, shows us that things are about to get really incredible. I mean, if we look at the previous version of Atlas, we can see that it was limited by a huge pack on the back, a huge battery pack, and a huge wires on the legs, which does not allow it to do the level of turning that this robot can do. Now, I think this is going to be a huge wake-up call for the robotics industry because I think people are now about to realize just how advanced robotics can be, with Boston Dynamics seemingly taking the lead in what is already a very competitive robotics industry. Companies like Figure, Apollo, Unitree, and Sanctuary Robotics are all competing for the top spot as the world's most effective humanoid. So I think it's a very fascinating future. And with that being said, this is it for today's video. See you again next week with another video.